So welcome to Sinai Temple. My name is Rabbi Erez Sherman. I'm one of the co-senior rabbis here at Sinai Temple. And it's an honor to welcome you here, whether for the first time or I see many familiar faces, to what will, I promise, be an inspiring evening on this moment of reflection, on this moment of remembrance, and also this moment of building bridges to hope as well. Before we begin the official program with Sharaka that I will introduce, we're going to do a very special presentation that we do each year. Each year on 9/11, our Sinai Temple Religious School and our community honors our Los Angeles Fire Department for their heroic work day in and day out. On 9/11, I was actually a student at Columbia University in New York, and I vividly remember standing on the corner of 120th and Broadway that afternoon and evening and watching the fire trucks go back to their stations filled with ash and soot and dirt with an American flag raised on their trucks, and us as students simply waving to them and greeting them and thanking them in any way that we could. And so each year, we, along with one of the sponsors for this evening, Jewish National Fund USA, we present a plaque to one of the stations around this neighborhood in Los Angeles Fire Department that allow us here as the Jewish community in Los Angeles to be safe and to thrive and to be part of this larger community. And so even though the fire department could not be here this evening because they are doing their job, tomorrow morning I'm going to present the plaque, but we are going to call up two people, actually three people, Judah Lindemann, who's the National Chair of Rabbis for Israel for JNF USA. Kelly, whose official position is?
Director of Los Angeles.
Thank you, Director of Los Angeles. And this is really special. Eden Waldman, come on up, Eden, who's a leader in our teen center who just returned from a summer in Israel on Alexander Mas High School program, which is the JNF USA's program for teenagers and so many different educational programs. And so we're going to present tomorrow, but right here, the Honoring Our Heroes, the Los Angeles Fire Department, with deep gratitude for your selfless commitment to the shared values of resilience and hope that bind together the people of Israel and the United States. And you may not know, but outside of the United States, Israel is the only country, I believe, that has a memorial to 9/11 with every single person's name who perished on that day, no matter the faith, no matter the race. And so this moment of tolerance over terrorism, shared values, remembering 9/11, brought to us by Jewish National Fund USA, and we thank them for their sponsorship and for their participation in what we know will be an inspiring evening. So thank you. Yes. Somebody has a camera?
Can you get one more?
One more.
Him posed.
Yes, sorry. Here we go. Right here. 1, 2, 3. Right here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. Perfect.
We'll hold this safely here in the back.
Yes. Before we get to our most important thing, which is content this evening, just a couple of thank yous. First to our Flesh Family Sinai Temple Israel Center, which brings us education, cultural, travel, and advocacy. Everything that you see online and in person is on behalf of the Flesh Family Sinai Temple Israel Center, and so we truly thank them for allowing this to happen. Also, Eli Elishmerni and the Iranian American Jewish Federation, always supportive of the programming that we do to bring people together to build bridges. So thank you to Eli and to Iranian American Jewish Federation, who we partner with so much, and the Iranian American Jewish Federation and the community, such a big part of this synagogue and this community. So thank you to you and to that community as well. I'll give it a round of applause. And so this evening, I just want to say this week has been one of the most inspiring weeks of the year for me personally as a rabbi, as a Jew, as an American, but most importantly as a human being, and you're going to understand why. For the Jewish community, we're about to enter the season of repentance and change. On the secular calendar, today marks 9/11, 24 years after the terror attacks on the country in the United States. If someone would have told me 24 years ago that on 9/11, 24 years later in 2025, that we would commemorate this day with a dialogue and a panel of Muslims, Jews, and Christians from the Abraham Accords country, I would have told you that you were dreaming. But the Jewish tradition teaches us that that's who we are, that we are dreamers. And today our Sinai Temple community, along with JNF USA and Iranian American Jewish Federation and Flesh Family Sinai Temple Israel Center, is so proud that that dream is a reality. It has been an unbelievable week of partnership and friendship and dialogue and progress to a brighter tomorrow of the next generation. And so this evening we are joined by Sharaka, Arabic for partnership. I got that wrong a couple days ago. I said participation, but I think they go hand in hand. but Sharaka means partnership. And we're going to hear from this amazing panel with an introduction by Noam Meirav, Managing Director of Sharaka.
Thank you, everyone. Working? Switch it up.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
Can they? Yes, you can hear me. Okay. Good evening. I'll say just a word about I think the hearts of all of us go to the American people on what happened on 9/11 over 2 decades ago, and I think from one perspective you can it is maybe completely detached from what we live it in the Middle East, and suddenly America also experienced something that is very similar to what we have, to this eternal war that we are feeling. And I think it shows that we're all one. Our destinies are connected, and what happens here goes back to the Middle East, and what happens in the Middle East, we have to find the true bridge. So that's just an idea that came to my mind. A word about Sharaka. So Sharaka in Arabic, like Rabbi Sherman mentioned, is partnership. And basically 5 years ago, when the Abraham Accords were signed, a couple of entrepreneurs from the region, from the Emirates, from Israel, from Bahrain, the UAE, and Morocco, they came to a conclusion that we can't just let the peace agreement stay in the government level. They have to trickle down to the peoples themselves. And we know that because before the Abraham Accords, Israel had 2 other agreements with Egypt and Jordan. And unfortunately, Israelis and Jews don't feel comfortable to roam by themselves and freely, for sure not with kippahs in their capitals, in Amman and Cairo. So we wanted to use the opportunity of new peace agreements to create new bonds between the people, because we believe that only through people to people, by the peoples themselves believing in these kinds of agreements, the peace will be sustainable and the countries will be prosperous together. So this was our vision. This is what we're aiming for, and what we do since then is bringing together impactful people from the region, from the Muslim countries to meet the Israelis, and from Israel to meet the Muslim and Arab countries. This is most of what we do, but we also understand that we need to share that this moderate discourse that is happening in the Middle East, we want the Americans to know it, because we feel that what happens in America, as I mentioned in the beginning, impacts us in the most direct way. And we believe that this discourse that you will hear tonight that is happening in the Middle East, a very positive trend that unfortunately isn't heard about enough in America, should be something that is implemented and goes into the discourse that happens here in the campuses, synagogues, mosques, and churches. And in this note, should I...
Yes, my new friends, but your people, so let's do it. You go
Great.
first.
So we'll start by hearing the stories of our Sharaka members, Sharaka team members who work in Sharaka 24/6 to change the region completely, and the Sharaka board members. And Rabbi, you can...
24/6, so but Fridays for you, Saturdays for us.
Of course.
So like 24/5, we're not sure about that. So let's start with you, Fatima, and your story. First of all, I've become obsessed with all of these stories, and you're going to walk out also wanting more, which is the most beautiful thing. So let's just share location, where you're from, your path to Sharaka, and how you have begun to literally not just change minds, because that's just facts, but emotions. How have you changed hearts?
Thank you. It's working, yeah? Thank you, Rabbi.
So soft-spoken, nice and loud.
Happy to be here with you all. My name is Fatma Al-Harbi. I am from Bahrain. My story actually started with so many questions. Growing up in Bahrain, I find myself one of the lucky ones. Bahrain have always been this open-minded country. We always had a Jewish community indigenous to Bahrain, a Christian community that also indigenous to Bahrain. We have the biggest church in the Gulf area. We had the only synagogue before the Abraham Accord, which is 120 years old, in the middle of the local market in MENA, which requires no security. And so growing up and seeing a Jewish Bahraini, a Christian Bahraini, the synagogue, the church, the mosques, all in one place, have brought me the person that I am today, of course. But in the same time, growing up in a Muslim and Arab country, hearing about Israel and the Israeli Jews as the evil figure or the enemy because of Al Jazeera channel, for example, the media, or sometimes even some people in the community. I've always wanted to know more, always had so many questions. Why can't we go to Israel? Why are we supposed to hate the Jews? And does the Jews actually hate us? And thankfully, my mom and my dad, very patient with me, answered so many questions and never taught me to hate anyone. I told them one day I'll go visit Israel, but no one thought it will become a reality until overnight the Abraham Accord happened and Sharaka was established, and they decided to invite the first delegation of leaders from Bahrain and UAE. And I immediately get approached. They knew I've been manifesting going to Israel. So they asked me, do you want to go to Israel? And I was, of course, yes. It was still COVID time. I wanted to get out of the country, see another country that I was not allowed to see. The moment we went to Israel, as any tourist exploring the area, we were walking down Tel Aviv near the beach area, just seeing the city. And I get approached immediately because it's very obvious that I'm Muslim and Arab because of my headscarf, hijab. And he said, excuse me, can I ask you a question? At that moment, I thought he was a Jewish man. I thought it would be something hateful. He would tell me, you're not welcomed, go back to your home, what are you doing here? But he said, where are you from? Are you from Bahrain or Dubai? He knew immediately, because of all the fuss about the historical Abraham Accord, the peace deal between Bahrain, UAE, and Israel. And I answered Bahrain, my friend said Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and he said, welcome. We've been waiting to have peace with Arabs for a long time. If you tell me 20 years ago that I would be welcomed by a Jewish man, a stranger in the middle of Tel Aviv street, I wouldn't believe you. But that was the reality. That was the reality that I would never expect. I met Israeli Arabs, Jews, Muslims, Christians. I went to the north. I went to Al-Aqsa Mosque. We always hear stories that if you're Muslim and wearing a hijab, you'll get beaten and the IDF won't allow you to get into the mosque to pray. But they allowed me. Nobody stopped me. I went and prayed in Al-Aqsa Mosque. I went to the Western Wall. And everybody, the Jewish people praying there, were happy seeing me there. I went to the church and the Christians were happy to seeing me there. So I was like, this is not the reality that I grew up hearing about. This is a different reality. I found myself obligated to share this reality on social media. I have tens of thousands of followers, so I thought it's a good idea for people back home to see a familiar face sharing their trip in Israel. It's not something that happens every day. It's the opposite. I became the first citizen actually to go visit Israel, and I thank COVID for that honor. No embassies yet, no visas, no direct flights, so I immediately got to be that person. So I got a lot of backlash, a lot of hate. What are you doing there? I hope you die. Take this off, you don't deserve wearing it. Anything you can imagine of hate speech, I received it. But that made me realize that I have an obligation to share this message and to be the bridge between my community and Israel and the Jews. And since that day, I've been advocating for peace. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take a trip around the Middle East, and let's go to Morocco for a few moments with Youssef, who was our star speaker on Shabbat. We almost gave you a bar mitzvah on Shabbat. It was so good. But what brought you to Sharaka, and is your story similar to Fatime? Is it very different? What did that look like that enabled you to be in LA tonight?
Thank you so much, and very honored to be here with you, and especially in this blessed place. And I am very happy to share with you all my story and my insights. So yeah, my story is very similar to Fatima's story. Only difference is that I don't wear a scarf, but still it's quite the same thing somehow. So I grew up in Morocco. You know, it's not really Middle East. Even if people, they would love to put us in Middle East, we're more like Africans, we're not Africans. And but because of the media, it really made us quite the same. So we have watched somehow the same news outlet. We have watched the same channels on the same satellite. And this is what made us somehow close culturally to Lebanon, to Egypt, to Bahrain. My story is very different in a way that I grew up with Jews. Like Jews for me, they were not aliens. So we grew up together as neighbors, as friends, as even close friends. We studied high school, universities. I know even Moroccans who went to Israel for their IDF service and then they came back. So basically, that's not something new to me. But this make us immune from the Arabic propaganda, if we can put it that way. It divided the society. It made Israel the demon of nowadays. It antagonized Israel as if it's the source of the misery of the world. And this is something we consume from breakfast to lunch to dinner. It is really dangerous. And we thought it's normal. People, they will look at the news and they will see Israel's demon, but it's not a big deal. No, it is becoming a big deal after years and years of on indoctrination and forced, I call it forced propaganda. I have waited until 3 years ago, where I somehow wanted to go to Israel. And many friends, they were like, okay, Yusuf, please come to Israel. We would love you to know our culture. So to my surprise, when I first landed in Ben Gurion airport, there's those three lingual signs. You have Hebrew, then Arabic. And there's something that it was very new to me, actually. I even asked my friend if we landed on the right airport. And that was really something I didn't expect it at all. The amount of people that they speak Moroccan dialect, very proud from that they work for the king, and all those small stories that I brought with me to Morocco to tell them, listen guys, I unlocked a new feeling, and that feeling is to be loved by the people I am supposed to hate. And but that didn't work very well. I went, as I joke about it, I went as a tourist. I came back as a Mossad agent. Yeah, that's Mossad taking care of it. I think it's because two microphones here. That's why I didn't interfere. So, so I believe that in that moment, I understood that people, they are not really hateful because it is something ideological. People, they are just ignorant. And sometimes we put we think that it is really ideology, but no, those people, they know nothing about ideology. I think their main ideology is ignorant, and they don't know nothing about Israel. And I don't think they believe in anything, because when I ask about that, even their knowledge about religion itself is very shallow. So I'm like, okay, what ideology are you on that made you hate Israel? And then when I think deeper about it, I found it's ignorance, nothing more than that. And because it hit directly my reputation, and a lot of people, they commented hateful messages on my Instagram and all that, I decided I'm gonna play that game, and I brought more people to Israel. And you have no idea about the reward that really came after this. We brought hundreds of people to March of the Living, to Auschwitz, to Berlin, to Israel, Moroccan Muslims, and this is the criteria actually. And that's something that really made me understand that the result is real. The effect is real. Like, as much as we see a lot of sadness in the world right now, when people, they will not change, and a lot of killing, and we think that we will never come up with a conclusion. No, the result is there. I saw Moroccans, Muslims, that they had no expectation from Israel. They went just because it's a free trip, and that they will go there and come back, and they changed their mind. And I'm talking here about the young people, the future leaders, that they are gonna govern in different fields in Morocco. They went there, and they told me something very beautiful. They told me, we've never been this humbled in our whole life. Like, we've never felt that stupid. And this is why I'm telling you, the whole problem, it's about ignorance. And you're gonna tell me, okay, if it's ignorance, then we give them the content and there is no problem. No, we forgot another thing. In order to learn, we need to be empathetic.
Be what?
Yes, exactly. Like in order to learn, we need first to be ready, to learn that thing. And I think the Arab world right now is not ready yet. And we need to make the Arab world ready to learn, and the knowledge is there anyway.
And so we're going to go to Egypt with Haitham. And your story is fascinating that they'll share. And maybe you can pick up also what Yusuf said about maybe ignorance, but also the willingness to learn, because your story is about the willingness to learn.
Thanks for having us, and good evening to everyone. So my name is Haitham. I grew up in Egypt, and can you guys hear me? Is it better now? Is it better this way? Yes, I guess, yes. So hello again, and good evening to everyone, and thanks for coming today. My name is Haitham. I'm Egyptian American. I grew up in Egypt, and I came to America to study for my undergrad studies. And when I was a student 10 years ago, as an undergrad here in American universities, I met Jews for the first time in my life, because in Egypt, the Jewish community lived back in the 50s and the 60s. And when I was growing up in the country, I had no idea who they are, except what the media and the newspapers and the television told me about. And unfortunately, it was all negative. You know, they are not like us. We fought bloody wars. And that's all my knowledge. So here I am. I came to America, and I met Jewish students in Middle East departments for the first time. And to be honest, I was fascinated, because many of the students I met, I found out that they learned Arabic, my language. They studied about Islam, my religion. They traveled to the countries where I came from in the Middle East to study, to do study abroad programs in the American University in Cairo, in Amman, in Jordan, in Morocco, in Tunisia, in the Gulf, everywhere. And for me, I started to be curious, you know, why do they do that? And they know so much about us, and I have no idea who they are, except what as I was told as a child, they are the other or the enemy. So a crazy idea came into my mind, and I said, you know what? If they go to the places where we come from, I'm going to do the opposite and go study in Israel. But obviously, you don't live as I was 22 at the time. I have parents to report to. There is a big Arab American community in my community. We live within. So what are you going to say? And also the big family back in your home country, Egypt as well. So anyway, after tense conversations and negotiations, I came to the conclusion that I'm going to be studying in Israel secretly, and we're not going to tell anybody. The parents said, just go and see that, and we'll see how this experience will take you. And you can imagine when I arrived to Ben Gurion Airport, and the security guard asked me, what's the purpose of the visit? So I have jokingly said, I came to see how the Jews look like. And so, and you can imagine the look they gave me. But I ended up passing and getting the visa as well. So to summarize it, my experience in Israel was defined by the unexpected, to be honest with you. I like to use this example all the time of my first 24 hours in the country, and put yourself into my shoes, you know. Don't put it in your shoes, because you know how Jews, you know the history of Israel and the Jewish people. I arrived, the security guard, when I asked him, he says he comes from a Russian background. The taxi driver who takes me from the airport to the hotel, he identifies as a Moroccan Jew, and he tells me about the story of the Moroccan Jewry in the country. I arrived to the hotel, I meet the receptionist, he sees my passport, he identifies as an Egyptian Jew, and he tells me about the story of the Egyptian Jews in Israel. And the next day I wake up in the morning, before I head to the university, I go to the beach, I buy something from the beach, I meet Arab Israelis for the first time in my life, and they introduce me to the concept of being an Arab citizen of a Jewish state. I go to the university dormitory, I get in, the security guard is Druze. In my way to my apartment, I see students speak Arabic. I run at them excited. They introduced me to the concept of Christian Arabs living within a Jewish state. First day on campus, the head of the admission was an American who made Aliyah, and she introduces me to the concept of Aliyah and what does it mean for the Jewish history and the Jewish tradition. So my experience was really
That was only on day one?
in the first 48 hours.
Pretty good.
Yes. To be honest, it's a very rich country, you know, and I really admire the history of the Jewish people because of that. After I lived in the country and I saw all these things by my own eyes, and really, and also not to mention, really, the society was very open to me. To my surprise, I was invited to hundreds of Shabbat dinners. At the time, it was during election times. I was invited to lots of political gatherings, and I still remember I went to some of the
We're
gatherings.
always in election period in Israel.
And I still remember when I was invited, I knew some people in the university, so they took me to it was like the whole coalition of political parties from the left and the center, and they took me there, and the politicians were so excited to meet with me, and they were even taking pictures with me because they knew of the background. I got to witness the election time in the Arab-Israeli villages as well. At the time, for the first time, they decided to do the Arab Joint List, the coalition, so they have more seats in the Knesset. So one, surprising to know that there are Arabs in the Knesset of Israel, and two, surprised that to be touring all across Arab-Israeli villages and Arab cities, witnessing a democratic election in a Jewish state in the heart of the Middle East. So the experience was defined by the unexpected. It made me question lots of my assumptions. And I'm proud to say by the end of my school year at Tel Aviv University, I was named the graduate school valedictorian. I was the first Egyptian. Thank you. I was the first Egyptian to be named so, first Arab American to be named so by an Israeli academic institution. I gave a speech that went viral inside Israel, and it was picked up very quickly in the Arab world as well. And you can imagine the reception, how it was. So the reception was not the best, but the experience itself made me that I should have a purpose in life. And my purpose in life is how to utilize my experience of living in Israel to enhance Muslim-Jewish relations and Arab-Israeli relations in the Middle East. And ever since, I have been working in policy circles in Washington, D.C., and the think tank community. And I wrote lots of studies and papers and articles about what can we do to improve this relationship, an issue I care deeply. But one question that used to trouble me most of the time, how can we make that trickle down to people interactions? Because throughout my studies, research, and travel to the region, I used to witness government to government and business community to business community, but people to people was the missing part. And that's why when the Abraham Accord was signed in 2020, I was really very excited to be board member with Sharaka right away, because a dream came true. You had the first generation of Arab peacemakers, Egypt and Jordan, didn't do much when it came to fixing the people to people relation side. And then you had the second generation of Arab peacemakers. For the first time, you had Arab governments are willingly and allowing their citizens to travel back and forth to Israel and do whatever they want with Israeli citizens, such as the case of Fatma and Yusuf. And I think this is something we should be encouraging and taking advantage of and try to maximize it, because we never know what could be the political winds in the Middle East are. And the political winds in the Middle East, it changed drastically. So this is very important.
Thank you. So speaking of political winds, the story of Mariam is fascinating, and I'm still wrapping my head around this, about your exile in Israel. Mariam.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mariam, and I'm just a friend of these amazing people here. So my story actually goes back to the 70s. I'll start by saying that I am a Lebanese Christian Israeli. I was born in a little village in southern Lebanon, and my story goes back to the 70s when Lebanon was facing a brutal civil war, when our government was deep into it. Us in the south, we were facing different terrorist organizations, and the civilians asked help from Israel to arm us, and this is how the Southern Lebanese army was created. My dad was in this army. It was the last army that fought Hezbollah on a Lebanese soil with the help of Israel. In 2000, when Israel withdrew from southern Lebanon, we became traitors and we had to flee our country to Israel. So 25 years later, we are still exiled, but we became Israeli citizens. My community managed to integrate and assimilate into the Israeli society. So I probably speak Hebrew better than most of you here, no offense. I grew up, you know, I went
She
to a
told that
Jewish...
to rabbinical students today. That was great.
I went to a Jewish school, and I celebrated with my friends Rosh Hashanah and Pesach, and then at home I celebrated Christmas and Passover. I taught my friends about, my holidays and my background, and I taught the Lebanese people about the Israelis and Jews. And the most important thing that I taught my Israeli friends is what real hummus is. And that's the Lebanese cuisine is the best cuisine in the world.
We still don't agree on that.
We'll talk about it.
The best one as an appetizer, maybe.
Sure. So, growing up in this multicultural environment, understanding the Arab world and also the Israeli side, from a very young age, I was a bridge between people, between nations, religions, countries. And the more I grew up, I understand how important voices like myself are in the Middle East and how rare we are, unfortunately. So I started creating content on social media, and my videos went super viral, even before the 7th of October. But the 7th of October actually allowed my voice to become even more crucial in the Middle East, because we saw a shift in the conversation back then. When the accords were signed, we were all surprised in Israel. I'm sure many of you know how we are cut off from the Middle East in a way or another. And even for me as an Arabic speaker, I never imagined that I will be able one day to visit the Gulf countries or to speak to people from the Gulf countries, or even to go visit Dubai and places that are very famous in the Arab world. So when Sharaka reached out to me and said, do you want to join on this, amazing organization that actually bringing people together from Bahrain, Morocco, I said, are you sure there are people from Bahrain that are doing this? Like, are you sure? And they were like, yeah, there are people like this. And then I met Fatme, and we immediately connected. It was incredible how similar our values were, even though we grew up on totally different sides of the Middle East. And our household is very different, obviously, but we have the same almost life experiences. And just like Yusuf said, the only thing that is missing is the veil. So, we became this voice that we craved to see when we grew up. And this year, I was honored to be named the first Lebanese Israeli in Israel on the Forbes list 30 under 30. So this was like, honorable moment. Not that I need any reason to do this. I truly love Israel, and I truly love to show the world how we are actually living in Israel. And it just always breaks my heart to see how people are unaware of how actually minorities live in Israel. So just to finish on a very hopeful note, this year, actually, we are almost on a level that Hezbollah will be disarmed, fingers crossed. And we are very hopeful that this changes that are happening in Lebanon and all over the Middle East actually will push Lebanon to have a peace agreement with Israel. We have a strong president, strong Lebanese army, the support of the US, that I hope it will, stay like this. And we are very hopeful that we will see more peace agreements on the way. Thank you.
So we're going to bring it to Israel with Noam. And you spoke about October 7th. I met Noam on a bus to the Nova site in this past March as part of the Voice of the People under President Herzog's Voice of the People Council. Another council member, Brandon Farbstein, is here as well. Brandon, good to see you. And on that day, you shared your experience saving lives on October 7th for the Israeli people, no matter what faith they were. And that's wartime. But now, in this role, you're actually building shalom, of peace. How do those two pieces fit into your identity and then bringing us what we're seeing this evening?
So I'd like to start a couple of until 3 years ago, I was an officer in the IDF, an officer in an elite unit, and that was a very natural thing to do as an Israeli. And after 8 years of service, I finished my service, and we had the Abraham Accords. So I was very passionate about it, and I wanted to just leverage the moment and start doing business in the Arab world. And one of my business even had a corporation in Abu Dhabi in the Emirates. And I remember a couple of weeks before October 7th, we were so enthusiastic about finally doing business and peace, like literally with the Arab world. And we were living the dream. We felt nothing like this is how we want to see the Middle East. And I remember on the beach in Abu Dhabi, warm winds in my face, on my long hair, and I was thinking, okay, now I just got to visit Gaza City, go to the market there. Unfortunately, a couple of weeks later, my wish came true. But coming to October 7th, on October 7th in the morning, I woke up like all other Israelis. I understood Arabic, so I opened my phone, and I immediately understood there are hostages in Gaza. I drove as fast as I can to the Gaza envelope to fight in the battles there, and I had two important thoughts in my head that I'd like to share. One thought is, because we're in a synagogue, in a Jewish place, and I think it's also connected to the last days in America, so I'd like to share it before we come back to the Middle East. One thought is this war isn't Simchat Torah. There are a lot of Jews in the audience, so I'd like to. It's not of the holiday that the war started, but a week before we were so split up in the Israeli society that it was just a punishment for God. I'm saying this because we're in a Jewish context, and I think this is my most important message for us Jewish people. We have to be together, and also to the American people. Discussion has to be in the most moderate way and with love and respect, and v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, love your neighbor as yourself. So this is one thought that I had, but the more important thought in the context that we have today is, oh shit, Sinwar is ruining my business in the Emirates and in Saudi Arabia. And of course, a couple of hours later, I understand there are a lot more worse things in life. I saw the worst atrocities in front of my eyes, children, elderly, Muslims, Christians, Jews, Hindus. Hamas, of course, didn't defer and went after all of them. And I understood in that moment that the only true victory, I don't like the word, but the only real revenge, if Sinwar, who thankfully is now in a refrigerator somewhere in Tel Aviv, if his goal was to cancel the expansion of the Accords, the only real revenge or real victory can be peace, can be expanding them. And by this, I'm also reaching out to the American society and especially American Jewry. This can't happen without the USA. The US is a very important component in the framework of peace in the region, like Mariam just stated. So for me, it was a very natural way to see it, that we need to battle the evil, but we need also to find the good partners in the region and to work on peace with them.
So in just a moment, we're going to open it up for questions, but I just want Fatima to share something, because this is about this generation, and I'm just a little older than everybody here, so I'm still in your generation. But you're really focusing on the next generation, my children. Tell everybody what you've done to make sure that they can see this as well.
I just recently, a month ago, I published my first English book. I have 5 Arabic novels. It's there. And the book is a children's book inspired by my trip to Israel, and it's called Fatima's Journey to the Land of Abraham. And the character takes a trip to Jerusalem and stops at every holy site for every religion. Al-Aqsa Mosque for Muslims, and she meets another Muslim girl there, and she goes to the church and she meets Maryam there. The character is inspired by Maryam. And then to the Western Wall, and she meets a Jewish boy there. And she prays with every religion. And it says, although that we pray in different way, but we all share the same hope and message for the place that we live in, the Middle East, of course. And it's available on Amazon, of course.
So we'll open it up to some questions. I'm going to ask, please, questions, not commentaries, because we're here to learn from our guests and obviously from each other, but questions. So, wow. I saw in the back first. Yes. And I'll repeat the question as well.
I'm not a person of limelight, and I'm asking you to bear with me. I try. On Passover, in their prayers, the Jews have a few questions. The first one is, what is the difference between tonight and other nights? And this is my question to you people. You are here in a Jewish community. I would like to assume that you have been or you are going to be in a Muslim community. We know how we are accepting you. I would like to know, or maybe these people would like to know, how are you being accepted in a Muslim community? And then I have maybe one more question.
Okay, thank you. So just repeat that we are loving these moments and this past week, and you're accepted into the Jewish community here. When you go back and people know or not, part of Sharaka, what you're doing, how are you accepted in your home countries? Anybody want to go first?
Most of our work actually is back home. I think 70 to 80% is based on the Middle East. Only 30% of our work based in the US. And even here in the US, we try as much as we can to go to everyone. We go to Muslim communities in mosques, and we had multiple times, maybe after October 7, it got a bit harder, but we still go to a mosques and Muslim communities. We go to Christian communities, we go even to Buddhist and Hindus communities. We go, most of our works is to university campuses because we know how important it is, and we go to the hard ones. We had so many protests before, people trying to shut us down, and I'm glad to say we confuse them. It's not only Israelis, you know, they see me with my hijab and they come shouting at me, but at the end, they sit and listen until the end of, so few of them, they had to be removed, unfortunately, but we go to everywhere. And even for us on social media, most of our followers, I think 90% of our followers are people living around the Middle East, Arabs and Muslims. So we try to target those more than anyone. Of course, we love coming here to Jewish community, and we receive hope also from you, but we love to going to the hard ones and challenge them, of course.
Fatima, but if I may ask you, and is it even possible to influence Muslims back in the region? Like, can we succeed in that?
Very possible. One of the things that I love to mention always is one of my friends that I grew up in a house that I've never celebrated the 9/11 or the 7th of October, but there is so many of my friends that actually celebrated the 9/11. They were so happy seeing Americans dying, and fast forward Israelis dying just because they're Christians or Americans or Israeli or Jews. But having people in our community that actually believes in that and celebrates terror. I have a friend that came into her upbringing in her house is a very, she leans to extremism, very religious. She prays 5 times a day saying, may God destroy Israel and the Jews. And she's my friend. I've never came to her like forcing her to come see Israel or changing her mind. When we decided to bring the first Israeli delegation to Bahrain, we brought Arabs and Muslims. And we thought it's a good idea because there will be a bridge between our community and Israel. They speak the same language, they practice the same religion. So only 2 of the delegation were Jews. She kept asking me a question, where are you taking them? Where are you spending time? I was like, I'm not forcing any information on you, come and meet them. You can't go to Israel, I understand, come and meet the Jews or the Israeli Arabs. And she was like, no, I don't want to be seen with Israelis. I was like, worst case scenario, you'll be seen with more Bahrainis. It's a dinner that Bahrainis will meet the delegation. And I convinced her with good food, fancy restaurant, and she decided to come. She came, I swear to God, I didn't plan it. There were only 2 Jews in the delegation, more than 12 people that were Arabs, Muslims, and Christians. She sat next to the Jews by a coincidence, or maybe the Mossad planned it, I don't know. But I didn't. The whole night, she kept talking to them. She was very respectful, and that's what I love about Bahrain, that even if they have this hate, when they meet someone they hate, they will be respectful, thankfully. And she spoke to them. At the end of the night, she came to me and she said, Fatima, oh my God, I can't believe this. I was like, oh my God, what happened? She was like, they're just like us. I was like, what did you expect to see? Of course, they're just like us. She's like, No, I mean, their values are very similar. Their religious books are very similar to us. Even how they look like, they have dark hair, their skin color is very similar to us. I'm like, are you convinced now they're Middle Easterns? And she's like, before that, no, but now, yes. Since that day, I always joke around her. She's a recovered anti-Semite person. She stopped saying that prayer. She became a friend of that human that she saw over dinner. She saw the human connection between her and the Jew, and she didn't see any labels at that day. And since that day, she became an advocate for Abraham Accord in her house. She's a very private person. She doesn't go into media, but she has a big family. They all live in one house. She convinced them that the Israelis are good people. I know it's silly, but for her, it was like, Israelis are the enemy, the devil, you know? So it happens. We have a lot of stories. We do it through our work. Yeah, it happens all the time.
I'm gonna have some more questions first. I'll make sure. Yep, in the front.
So I think this is sort of a question for a little bit of everybody here. I speak pretty loud, but this is perfect. Okay. Sort of specific about the situation in Egypt and having such a complicated relationship with Israel over the years. So many Israelis go into Sinai over, the break, and they enjoy the, beautiful weather down there on the beach. And you see this glimpse of a possibility when you go down there. My question is, what do we find in the relationships that have been forged from the Abraham Accords, the lessons we learned from Arabs living in Israel, and the lessons we learned from the Arab community outside of Israel to take the next step with Egypt?
That's a very good question. Thank you for that. I think a few thoughts that comes into mind. When it comes to Egypt relations, I see that in three different dynamics, government to government, regime to regime, that's what I mean. And just an overview of the past 10 years, regime to regime or government to government, there has been harmony between the Sisi regime and the Israeli government because they had mutual interest in curbing the Muslim Brotherhood influence in the region. Egypt was having issues with terrorism, so the Israelis helped the Egyptians greatly when it came to that. Another point is the economic side, as you mentioned, Sinai. One of the good things about peace in the Middle East, commercial diplomacy, that's what I like to call it, So you create the business community here and a business community in the respective countries, and then you have an interest groups in both sides, and they do business together and they benefit from that, which I think was very successful. And I still remember I was in Israel 3 weeks before the October 7th crisis, and I still remember I was walking in Dizengoff street, and then I was talking on the phone in Egyptian dialect, Arabic, that's my accent, and then few Israelis stopped me and they recognized my accent. And this is actually a byproduct of the huge Israeli presence in Sinai. And I did not witness that 10 years earlier when I was in Israel. So it gave me hope that the last time I was in the country, people even started to recognize the Egyptian Arabic dialect in the street. But to make the story short, also security cooperation has been, as I mentioned, and even it's gonna continue between the two sides as the reconstruction of Gaza is going to start. So my point is, don't believe everything you see in the media when it comes to Israel and Egypt are fighting or they are in the verge of a potential war or anything. Literally every 3 months, the defense attaché from the Egyptian side goes to the Israeli side from the Department of Defense, meet and cooperate. And if mistakes happen between the two sides, they just have their own honorary charges against each other, and they do it collectively. So it is not as everybody in the media keeps talking about it. Regarding the implication of the Abraham Accord on that, I think the Abraham Accord put Egypt under pressure because Egyptians are very proud of themselves as the strongest Arabs. They have the strongest military. They have the longest history in the region. We are the most populous Arab country. We have the soft power of the media, and all of a sudden you had the smaller countries than you and started really to do peace between people to people. So one byproduct when it came to Egypt because of the Abraham Accord, the lower of anti-Semitic TV shows on Egyptian media. Egypt is the strongest country or the biggest country when it comes to the production of the media industry, and they used to produce TV show, anti-Semitic TV shows every year. After the Abraham Accord, 5 years from now, I think they produce only one anti-Semitic TV show. So this is in itself was good because they saw Good. And also in terms of business to business also, the Egyptians were always cautious not to open up to the Israelis when it comes to the economy. So they let small portions of the business community to deal with the Israelis under the supervision of the Egyptian intelligence. When the Abraham Accord happened and they saw the massive cash flow inside Morocco, inside the United Arab Emirates, inside Bahrain, the Egyptians started to say, you know what, we are missing out, you know. And the business groups inside Egypt started to look at their counterparts in the United Arab Emirates. So the Egyptian government was forced to open up a little bit. Otherwise, some of the Egyptian business community will travel to Bahrain or Morocco or even United Arab Emirates and do the business from there. So Egypt would like that to be reflected on it. Thank you.
Joseph? I have a very basic and non-controversial question about your organization. Could you tell us how old is the organization, how many members you have, how has the membership evolved over the years, how does it break down between the different countries that you...
Great. By the way, it was important I didn't mention, of course, we're a nonprofit NGO, and I'd separate it to two. People who work in the organization and the wider movement. People who work, we have Fatima, our Gulf director. We have two staffs in Morocco. Yusuf is the director and another political consultant. And we have another around 4 in Israel. That means, and 1 in Pakistan, one and a half, which is an interesting other point. We haven't really talked about it, but Pakistanis, they have on their passports, this passport is valid to all countries in the world except Israel, but they see our organization as a gateway to create, because we're an NGO, to create relationships with Israel. So we have people who work there on the ground to help us create connections with politicians, businessmen, academia. So those are our staff, around 10 around the world, multinational. But what Sharaka became is more than just this group. Of course, we have the board, but it became sort of a movement of the Abraham Accords. And as Yusuf mentioned, there were already hundreds of people who went through our programs in Israel, in Poland. We are the biggest organization that does Holocaust education in the Arab world, in the Arab and Muslim world. And we're very proud about that. And I'll finish by saying that so we got to around 1,000 people who have went through our programs, but these aren't just 1,000. Every human being is important and the world by himself. But through our teams in the region, we scout for very impactful people. For example, in the last March of the Living, we had dozens of Arab and Muslim participants from Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, Bahrain, Morocco, and one of them was the mayor of Tangier. Tangier is the 3rd largest city in Morocco, 2 million people. And I remember he and I, we walked in Auschwitz, and he wept on my shoulder and said, listen, I haven't known all of this. I haven't heard about the Holocaust, and I'm going to implement it into the curriculum of my city. So because we find these very impactful people who join our programs, we understand we are making not just a lasting influence on the individual, but hopefully also on a broader audience and people he works with.
Fatima just said she went to March of the Living the last 3 years, and guess who she met there? Jonah Platt, Sinai's own, because Sharaka actually brought Jonah to go on March of the Living. So I believe he was in Columbus, Ohio last night, but he said otherwise he would have been in this chair. Yes, he's here every day. Eli?
Mariam, a question for you. Of course, we hope for peace, and this organization will help bring on peace. But I'm curious about your experience in Israel. Would you ever consider being part of the IDF?
Of what, sorry?
The IDF.
I always tell her that. She needs to join.
So actually, that's a great question. So my community is not, it's not mandatory for us to serve. 2 of my sisters are serving currently in the IDF. For me, unfortunately, my age was a bit different. Like first years when we arrived to Israel, all our parents wanted is to go back to Lebanon because we were forced to leave. So they thought that if we go to serve in the army, it will be very hard for us to go back to Lebanon and we won't be accepted. So it wasn't pushed in our community for us. when I went to the IDF and I wanted to be in an important, unit, Israel said, "We're sorry, but you're Lebanese. You still have family on the other side of the border, so we won't take you." So I found other ways to contribute to Israel, and I think it's better. Like it turned out to be better. But yes, we have in our community many people who go to serve in the IDF. Yes.
We'll get back there, I promise.
So you were talking about March of the Living and taking the gentleman who's the mayor in Morocco. I was wondering, you said you also go on college campuses, and there seems to be a trend now of Holocaust denying on college campuses. We even, in Sacramento right now, there's a bill that's specifically about no anti-Semitism in our schools. And I was wondering if you were able to connect with people in Sacramento or other areas of government and on college campuses and help with their education of Israel and the Holocaust.
Why do you look at me? So we indeed work with a lot of campuses. Okay, do you hear me now? Okay, perfect. So indeed we work with a lot of campuses, and this is exactly our main target. And it might seem here that we are preaching to the choir, but we will tell you later why we are here also, because I believe that we have another message, exactly, especially for this audience right now. But for the campuses, for us is the main target, because not only we want to fight the BDS and we want to understand all those groups, student group, that they just want to enhance hate within the universities, but also we believe that those students, they deserve a better perspective or another perspective of what they see. And for us, we didn't receive a lot of hatred here in America, thank God. Our main panel was, I think, hijacked 2 times, if I remember, in 3 years. Meaning that people, they come, pro-Palestinians, once I start to talk, they stand up, free Palestine, just to stop me from talking and everything. And I believe that for them, they cannot debate because of one thing. They are afraid to face a Muslim, that they are from them, and he is pro-peace and he is pro-Israel. And it is something that is very different to them, actually. And also I feel more entitled because I come from a Muslim country. I wasn't even born in America, so I try to preach more about the values of Islam. Talking about the values of Islam, actually, and this is something that I would love to share with you here. I remember, I think it was 3 years ago exactly, it was in February 2022, there was a group of Israelis that came to Morocco for the first time. I think it was the first official leaders delegation to Morocco. And somehow one of them we made a really good relationship, and he became a very dear friend of mine. He's from Beersheba, his name is Afichai, and through the week we became really good friends. The thing is that I remember the last day or the second before the last day, he told me, you know what, Youssef, we had fun, we are good friends, we are even brothers, but I have a problem with you. I told him, what's this problem? He told me that I think your religion wants to kill me. And I told him, in what sense? He told me that there is a hadith. So you know the difference between Quran and the hadith. And there is a hadith that says that by the end of time, there's going to be a war between Muslims and Jews. And the Jews will be hidden behind rocks. And then they will speak and they will tell the Muslim, here is the Jews come and kill him. I smiled actually, and I look at him, I tell him, listen, I can find you even if you are behind the rock. You are fat, Afichai. But not only that, but I told him, I don't believe in this. It was so funny in my head that people, and that's the problem also, we take responsibilities as Muslim as well, because we let this content spread from hundreds of years. And this content, and I'm happy about my king in Morocco and even in Bahrain, we are not really politically correct with this kind of content. And I despise this content, not even I don't believe in it, but I as a Muslim will never
accept it in any other settings, whether here or as a friend discussion, etc. I told him, Afichai, we have, and Cicely, sorry, I will say it in a abbreviated way since we are in a holy place. We have a lot of BS in our religion. And I believe that this needs to be cancelled. A lot of talking about how the Jews are the enemies, we will fight each other. But guess what? The holiest book, the Quran, that we believe as Muslims is the word of God, says that God is talking, that we promised this land to the Jews. In Surah Al-Isra, verse 104, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, 2 promises of God to the Bani Israel to dwell in the land. And we have even a prophecy of Israel that says, and when the hereafter comes, we will bring you in groups. So for us Muslims, Israel is a sign of the hereafter. And as my grandfather loves to say, it was like, was in 1948 in the British Palestine, I will see Jews coming there. I would tell them, yeah, I will help them. This is the prophecy of a Muslim, and they will welcome them and help them come and settle there because this is the prophecy we see. I believe that this is exactly where I was educated. And we shouldn't be politically correct with any message of terror. There is something else I would love to share with you here, since we are again in this holy place. We shouldn't despise anyone's religion. And it's all our fights against terrorism, because terrorism, it's sometimes it hides in Islam, then you find it in Christianity, then you find it in Judaism, but it's like a disease, it's like a virus. And they believe by defending the 3 religions at once, this is how we will counter the terrorism. Because I believe if in a particular moment we forgot ourselves. I only defend Islam and they forget about Christianity and Judaism. That doesn't concern me. It's their word. It doesn't work like that, because terrorism always loves the hated people, the victimized people, and it's there where terrorism cocoons somehow. So I believe as a Muslim, it's my moral obligation, spiritual obligation, to be advocate for Christianity, to be advocate of Judaism, and to be advocate for Islam in order to protect us from terrorism. And I believe this is exactly the message. That's why we came here, because otherwise, everyone will look at their own religion and terrorism will find a way through us, and that's gonna be a misery. One last thing, and I'm sorry to talk very long. Yesterday we lost a very dear person to all of us, and this person is same age. We were both born in 1993, and I was following him for so much time. And yesterday we were have a speaking engagement in university, and they was so not very well that a friend suggested me to play basketball, and I just wanted to zone out, and I went to play basketball just because I don't want to think about what I do. It is Charlie Kirk did exactly what we are doing right now. We are going to universities, we are debating, we are sharing our stories. And I believe, again, if we let the people win us with arms, because they cannot win us with debate, because we are so confident, because we know the truth, I think it's a sign that we are winning. And it's not a sign that we are losing. And because they use violence, it means that they have nothing to say to us. So, and I believe that is exactly a sign. I wish Charlie Kirk, that will be also a message of hope to all of us. As even if we lost him, and it's a sad, it means that they cannot silence us, exactly, with words. And they believe that is hope for all of us, Jews, Christians, and Muslim. It's time to go back to the work and to the Charlie Kirk legacy, that we shouldn't give any room to terrorism. So thank you very much.
Right, the last question, and then after, we'll obviously have time to booze and everything. Right?
Well, first of all, we're so happy you're here, and I, like everybody else in the audience, were just completely blown away by your message, particularly given these troubling times that we all live in, highlighted by what happened yesterday with Charlie Kirk. My question is, and sort of playing off of what Joseph asked you, is man, oh man, you've got a huge mission ahead of you, and what you're doing is fantastic, and social media allows you to do so much. But I'm wondering how is it possible to scale this? Do you have, are you on the radar of any governments? How have the governments in the Middle East, have they noticed what you're doing? Have they supported you? And hope maybe you're reaching out to, you have a development people, you're reaching out to philanthropic organizations to get the fundraising to really bring to scale what you're doing, because boy, the world needs exactly what you're doing.
Thank you for the question. Three different questions. I'll start with the governments. First of all, in the Arab world, I think that's the most complicated part of our job. Arab and Muslim world, you can't do anything without consent and acceptance of the governments. And this is our challenging work and our Sharaka. By the way, we are the only peace organization that survived October 7th because we had Fatima and Yusuf on the ground who had the trust of the government, of the politicians, of the leaders, saying, okay, we're doing it together. We're not doing it in an Israeli way. It's not about Zionism. It's about a real integration of the region. So the governments back us. They help us. All governments, each one in its unique way, we'll call it that way. About scaling, as I mentioned, the methodology. We look for impactful people, and we ask for them. I don't like to say demand, but we try our best to make them come back and do work on the ground. For example, I mentioned Pakistan. We brought a delegation of Pakistani leaders. One of them came back and he committed to just go all around Pakistan and to lecture about anti-Semitism and Abraham Accords. And in the beginning, he sent me photos. And I told him, listen, I don't believe you. Send me videos. And he sent me videos in Urdu. And I was, okay, I don't understand Urdu. But thank God, nowadays, we have ChatGPT. So I sent the video to ChatGPT. And I'm hearing him lecturing in front hundreds of niqabi women in the mountains in Pakistan about anti-Semitism, about the Holocaust, about how we can understand the history of the Jewish people, and this is how we scale. And one last thing, of course, it's social media. You have to follow these amazing people. They're followed by tens of thousands of people around the region in the different platforms, and that's a way that we scale. And of course, anyone who wants to help us can find us.
So we'll do, we're going to ask after, because I know I want everybody to give one chance. Is it a short question? Okay, short. And we'll do short questions, short answers, and big group hug.
Yes, it is a question. This is a question to the Muslim members of the Sharaka, and the second person indicated some of it, and I would like to emphasize, in the Holy Quran, there are at least 4 that I know. They are pro-Zionist verses, and I dare to say they are Zionist verses. What do you think if you introduce this kind of verses to the Muslim community? I think this is the best ammunition. Thank you very much. By the way, I have a list of them if you want to.
Yusuf also has a list of them.
Okay, I will give you a short answer. So I was about to go to jail. Yeah. So that's the first one, and I'm serious. If we didn't have a very good leadership, if it wasn't for the king and the authority in Morocco, I would have been jailed, by the way, because I said exactly what you said, and it was front to all the Moroccans. It was highlighted in one of the biggest medias in Morocco that I said that the Quran is Zionist, and for us, the problem is that I learned a huge lesson, which is that we shouldn't be very confrontational with the people. You are right, by the way, and I believe this as well, that there is a lot of Zionism in the Quran, and that where the Jews will go back to their homeland. And I believe that, as Fatima loved to say, we love to go step by step. You know, I remember we went to Bahraini ambassador, remember, in DC? He told us something very, very wise. He told us, we as government, we would love to help your message spread, but let's have the same speed together. And that was very wise for him to say, because if we as people to people, we feel very excited and we want to share and say something like that, even if it's true, but we shouldn't forget the mission, is that the truth is the destination, but it needs step by step to how to embed it in our societies. And that's my role, and I'll give you my promise. I will go there one day I will reach that level of saying it in out loud in Morocco, but it takes some time.
So maybe 30 seconds of a closing statement, a closing wish, a closing blessing for our new year as we head into these very special holy days of season of change. Fatima.
Right. I want you to know that we're not a special case. There is a lot of people that share the same message. The majority of Muslims and Arabs living in our countries are like us, but unfortunately they're silent. But don't think what you see in the media is the reality of the Middle East.
Very good question. I think you shouldn't be upset or shy or embarrassed by what's happening nowadays in the Middle East, because I have many Jewish friends here in America. They are very stressed out because of the events in the Middle East. Actually, Israel is fighting in the region on behalf of every moderate Arab. If you think about it this way, the destruction of Hamas is an interest for moderate Arabs. The destruction of Hezbollah is the interest of moderate Arabs. The destruction of the Houthis is an interest of the moderate Arabs. And by destroying these militia groups that hijacked their countries for years and created states within states, this hindered those who have positive messages in the communities over there. So yes, war is bad. Yes, war creates devastation, but also war creates another opportunities, unfortunately. So there is lots of opportunities in the region.
To me, Rosh Hashanah is my favorite Jewish holiday. You know, the songs.
She's bringing a vert here, a vort, as a Christian.
It's my favorite holiday. So it always reminded me as a kid, you know, going back to school and starting over and everything is new and, you know, having new pens and so on. I hope, and I'm very hopeful that this year it will be symbolic, just like we start Rosh Hashanah, we start New Year, that we will have a new start in the Middle East, and slowly, slowly we will see that change that we are talking about actually implemented in our region and between our people. Amen.
You know, my mom, when I used to study in Delaware for an exchange program 12 years ago, she told me if you get lost and you don't find a Muslim family, go find a Jewish family. At least the food is halal. And that's what she cares about the most. I believe in our religion we have a huge room for us to coexist. First of all, the food, the spirituality. It is halal for me to pray here. I think for most of you it's halal to pray in a mosque. And I believe that it was wise from God to change the Qibla for us Muslims towards Mecca and not towards Jerusalem. It was very wise because He wanted us to live together, and because there are going to be many groups of people all over the world, so we share the world somehow together. And I believe that it's like God prepared us to live for everyone. He has a place to live, and this is exactly the hope. I believe that each of us has his own way to find God, but there is only one way to find the devil. And I hope that we focus on all those ways to find God, whether it's Judaism or Christianity or Islam, and try to annihilate all those forms of terrorism. And I hope one day we understand this message very well, that the problem is not religion, the problem is people, it's the greed, it's the politics, and one day, inshallah, we reach that one day. So thank you very much again for listening to us.
First of all, these people are very brave. If you haven't understood, Yusuf literally almost got into jail, and Fatima and Haitham, Mariam, they're brave and basically also endangering their lives. But we see a giant movement. We get in our emails and on our social media accounts thousands of messages of people who are saying, listen, you speaking up, you being so brave gives us hope. We want to be part of this positive trends that's happening in the Middle East. 9/11 showed us the darkness, the evilness that is within all of us in the Jewish tradition. We say Yetzer Hara. We know we all have it, but there's also this goodness in millions in the Middle East who are trying to change it. And I will say, America is part of it. America needs to be active in be it if by actively intervening or from a more passive point of view, but being part of this change in the region, because it can happen and it will be for the benefit of all of us.
And so I want to conclude. First of all, thank you. Again, I've been following you all week long as fans, and I don't want to be a fan. I know we're all now part of the family, and so that's the most important piece. But I want to conclude with the words that we say morning and evening that we began in the month of Elul, and we're going to continue through the holidays till the end of the Sukkot holiday of Hoshana Rabbah for Psalm 27. Chazak v'yamet libecha v'kave el Adonai. That we should be strong and take courage and hope in Adonai and hope in God. And I know that we can be strong and take courage because of what you are doing. And we hope that we can be part of this, not just as a one-night event, but really a continuing way to a better future tomorrow. So an early Shana Tova. We have, yes, Joseph?
Just wanted to find out, when are you going to establish a branch in Iran?
Oh, amen.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
The best question of the night.
Because Iran had relationship with Israel.
Yes.
It's very different from the other Arab countries.
So every Wednesday, tonight was different because it was Thursday, but every Wednesday we have a program as part of our Sinai Speaks program. A big thank you to Amanda Harrison, to our communications team, to our maintenance team, to our security team, and also to Rachel Brynan, who's the Managing Director of U.S. Affairs Manager, who's actually from Philly, but made Aliyah and living in Tel Aviv as well. If you're interested in continued programs at Sinai Temple, please be in touch. Actually, on Sunday morning, if you like sports and Israel and Olympics, you can come on Sunday at 10 a.m. in Ziegler Sanctuary and meet Peter Palchik, the Israeli Olympic judo medalist. He will be with us telling his story from the Ukraine to Israel and that as well. You guys want to stay? Please. So have a wonderful night. Please schmooze with Sharaka, and really thank you for being here.
Okay.